Good morning. Welcome back to Blue Hind's Garage. We're here today to do a WDI, better known as wireless digital imaging, to continue the triage operations we've been doing here on Henry's Lady, the 91-year-old Dearborn senior citizen you're seeing here. We're going to start the paint application here. We're going to apply some paint again to the 91-year-old Dearborn senior citizen that's been in a coma for 60 years that we know of. See if we can bring her back to life. So here we go. Okay, well, let's start. This can almost done. Let's finish this off and then we'll get a new one. All these hard to reach places first. Running out of paint. Out of paint. Okay, here's a fresh can. All it is automotive primer, it says. I did a couple of pieces already using the primer first and then the engine enamel. I don't know if it's necessary with the engine enamel, but it seemed to work pretty nice. Well, this is a new can. It seems the consistency seems to be different than the old can. Seems like they figured out a way, between the old can and the new can, they figured out a way of making a much finer spray pattern with the paint. Okay, well, there's a complete coat, and I think that's all the primer I'm going to use. Like I said, I don't know if the engine enamel requires any primer. That'll do, I think. That will do. Yep, that's good. See you later. I'll show you more when I start putting the green on, the Model A green on it. Okay, well, it's been about 45 minutes since we put this foundation on the Dearborn Granny. And the directions say recoat, or top coat within 1 hour or after 48 hours. We're going to do within 1 hour. So like I said, it's roughly 45 minutes later. We're going to put some more makeup, early Ford green, in this case, on the Dearborn Granny. See if we can make her look pretty. Here we go. I'm gonna do some of the hard areas first. Now I think I'll leave that sit for a little bit before I put any more in there. Yeah, Granny ought to be happy with that. Okay, I think Granny ought to be happy with that. I think I'm going to leave that for about 15-20 minutes and then put another coat. And I think we'll say Granny's makeup is ready for the screen. Okay, so between coats of paint on Dearborn Granny, I'm working on this. That look familiar to anybody? It's a sprinkler controller that I have to change. One of my gardener friends tells me that these things go bad in cases like this because they're exposed to the sun. They're out here in the sun all day long. The sun fries the digital stuff, the electronics. Anyway, I have this to put in its place. So, like I said, between the coats of paint, I've been taking this apart, digging up the hole. Anyway, later, bye. Okay, it's about 15 minutes later, and it's time for our second coat. Second and final coat. Okay, so in the meantime, between getting that ready for paint, I've been working on other things too. You see, these are all original Model A bolts. Came with all of these parts. And I cleaned them in solvent, bead blasted them, wire brushed them, and then I thought, you know, I'd like to use them because some of them are unique. You see the shape of these, they're different, they're round. Hex-headed, but they're like a big mushroom. Anyway, those timing cover bolts and oil pans and the side cover, the valve cover are the little ones. Henry wasn't bashful about using big hardware on these old motors. There's no 1/4 inch hardware on this motor. It's all 5/16 or bigger. So anyway, I got these. I blued these. I used some. I had a bluing kit that I had purchased to use on Blue Heinz, and then went a different route. So I never used it, and I thought of it. I thought, you know. So what I did is I used that. It's a chemical process. What you see there looks like black paint, but it's actually a chemical process. You clean the hardware really clean with a solution they give you as after you get them, you know, otherwise clean all the grease and stuff off them, and they give you a wax and grease remover. You clean them individually with that, and then you put the bluing on there, which is a chemical treatment, turns them that color. They're shiny when you start. You put the chemical treatment on there, and that's what you end up with. And then obviously I got the oil pan down yesterday, and I started messing with that. I've got the pan itself is, I don't know if you can see in here. Pan itself is in there. I was bead blasting that yesterday. I'm not quite done with it yet. It's a little large for this cabinet, but it'll work. Anyway, not bead blasting, actually sand blasting. I've got 30 mesh sand in there. And then I also have, real quickly, and then I'll finish with this. Also have a few other parts that I painted last week. The end of last week. And I've had them hanging since then. I think I painted them Friday. So you see here the side cover, the end of the timing cover, the oil tube, you know, where you put the oil in the motor, the oil return tube, water pump. That stuff is all painted already. So almost done with the painting. I think the oil pan. I also have to find a, what do they call it? Flywheel housing. It's the piece that goes directly behind the motor and encloses the flywheel. I don't have that part. So I'm going to a swap meet. Saturday there's a swap meet, a local swap meet that's put on by the V8 Club, close by, probably 15 miles from here. And I'm going to go to that and see if I can find the flywheel housing, a distributor, because I didn't get one of those with these parts either, and a fan, you know, the old two-blade fan. I think that's about it. That's about all the other parts that I need. But anyway, so I'll do some painting once I get that flywheel housing for sure. That gets painted the same color as the motor. It attaches directly to the motor. Distributor gets painted black, but I don't know what I'm going to end up with if I have to bead blast that, you know, start from rusty whatever, or if it's what condition it's going to be in. But anyway, that's coming. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Well, it's done. I haven't turned it back on yet and programmed it yet because it's late and I'm done for today, but it's installed. Only problem I had was they eliminated the little screw terminals to terminate the zones, the wires, the zone wires, and my whole system's done with stranded wire. They put those little, one of those little terminal strips that you poke the solid wire into the spring, like on the back of the receptacles, you know, for solid wire. Doesn't work with stranded. So I had to get the soldering iron out and solder the end of every conductor so I could poke it in the little terminal. Fun. Took an extra 2 hours, I think, because I tried it just twisting the ends of the wires first and it didn't work. So I ended up having to pull them all off, cut them all off, shorten them a bit because there wasn't much room either, and solder the ends on all the wires so I can get them in the terminals. Anyway, it's done now. I just got to program it, turn it on and program it tomorrow morning. So anyway, see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Well, hello there. Welcome back to Blue Heinz Garage. We're here today. It's the 16th of May. And we're here today working on the Dearborn Granny. Trying to help her get ready for her coming together party. So we're going to, we got all the head studs installed. I put a tiny bit of blue Loctite on the bottom of the threads just to keep them from turning. Not much, just enough, like I said, to try to stabilize them, keep them from turning, to come, not so they won't try and come loose or anything like that. And one of them goes through into the water jacket, so some RTV on those threads. Anyway, here's the head, all ready to go. It's painted, and the water pump's installed. A new fan hanging on the end of it. A new fan that I bought last week at a swap meet, new used fan. And the copper head gasket, I'm about to spray that. I found some copper coat locally. See, I have parts from Little Dearborn and Burt's. So I think I'm ready to put that much of it together. I'm going to, hopefully if I get that far, turn it upside down. You see the pan's on there, and it's just on there with 4, loose bolts. Going to turn it upside down and get everything on the bottom end ready to close up. I've got to do the cotter pins. The bearings are done, but I have to put the cotter pins in, obviously the seals on the end and all that good stuff. See if I can install, if I get that far. And today's the day to work on Dearborn Granny. So I'm going to try and get the oil pan installed today. And then I have to remove this from the stand and reattach it on the stand from this side so that I can put the flywheel housing on the back. Put the flywheel on the back. The back, in other words, won't have the stand attached to it. The back will be hanging out one side of the stand. So then I can put the flywheel housing and the flywheel and all that stuff. Get ready to build a running stand for it. I have some of the, I'm going to do that out of wood. This one here, I have a test stand over here that has a 283. A small block Chevy that I want to keep there so that I can start and run that motor as it gets older, unused. That's for the Model A that's in the garage, the closed cap pickup hot rod, street rod that's in the other garage. But at any rate, if you're interested, follow along and you'll see how this head gasket install goes. I already tried the gasket. The gasket slides right down over all of the studs. The head, on the other hand, when you put it on there, it goes down part way and then it binds. And I can't understand why. I've checked all of the studs with a square. They're all vertical and whatever straight coming out of the head. It starts on there, but somehow or other it binds on the way down. And I'm not sure if that's just it tipping sideways enough to catch or what. I've seen guys lower them straight down on there, but this one I can't seem to find a happy medium to do that. But anyway, here we go. Okay, well, after a bit of a battle, head's installed. Had quite a bit of a problem getting it down onto the motor. The studs were all square to the top of the block. I checked on every one of them, and the gasket went right on. Putting the head on, however, was not easy. It would go down until there was probably an inch to go to get to the top of the block, and then you couldn't push it down anymore. So I ended up, I got the 2 tall bolts here through the casting and put nuts on those and started pulling that end down. This end I pushed down as far as until it wouldn't go anymore. Then I got these are 7/16 bolts. I got a 1/2 inch socket and turned it, the skinny side down and tapped the back end of it down as I tightened the front end of it down until it was touching. Quite a chore, actually. But anyway, once it was down, everything was cool. I oiled the threads on the studs. Put these little, you notice there's these little stainless AN washers underneath the nuts, just to, for two reasons. For appearance and so that it would eat up some of the friction while I was torquing the nuts. Like I said, I put a couple of drops of oil on the threads, let it run down onto the washer, and then put the nuts on. So it all worked. I got them at 55 pounds torque. Yeah, torque down to 55 pounds. So obviously once I warm it up, I'll torque them down again. But and I got the distributor in just to plug up the hole so I don't drop anything down the motor. And the same with the spark plugs. They're on there again to cover the holes. You see I put the drain pipe back in on this side. Now what I'm going to do now is turn it upside down. Take the pan off and get the bottom end ready. Put all the cotter pins in the rod bolts, in the main bolts. Oil everything up real good. Put some semi-lube on the cam from the bottom side because it's all exposed on the bottom side. Probably put some assembly lube on the timing gears as well before I close that up. You see part of it is still open here. The front cover is just on with 2 bolts temporarily, just to hold it there. I've got to put the gasket in the bottom of it where the front pulley goes through it, and I got to do the gasket for the whole pan, obviously, and that's, I finally found some directions on that because I mean this thing's a bit unique. It's not like anything you do today. Doesn't have actual lip seals. It's got different kinds of oil seals. You know, big square piece of cork that you use on the back. There's a groove in the rear main. This square piece of cork, you got to kind of muscle that in there, and then the pan rides on that. On the front, there's a rope seal that goes in the pan and a rope seal that goes in a groove in the bottom of that cast cover. And supposedly if you do it correctly, it doesn't leak. You're supposed to, I think, soak the rope seal in oil like overnight at least. Soak the rope in oil. Anyway, we're going to get into that later. Good morning. Welcome back to Blue Hind's Garage. It's the next day. It's the 17th today, May 17th, and we're back here working a little more on the senior citizen from Dearborn, 91-year-old from Dearborn here. She's laying on her back right now. Anyway, made some progress yesterday. Got the head installed. You can kind of see that here. Like I said, she's upside down right now. The head's installed. Got the pan off. We're getting ready to install the pan. You see I have some assembly lube in various places. A bunch of it on the cam there, even though it's already well worn. All the cotter pins are installed inside. I still have the ones to do on the mains that are with the motor facing the other direction. They're on the top side, on the outside of the motor. Did this yesterday. This is a drain oil drain for the rear main, and this pipe screws in to the main right there, to the bearing cap right there, and it was rather loose. Threads weren't that good, so I put some JB Weld on it yesterday, and you can see that it kind of flows as it sets, nice and smooth there, but it's quite solid. That's important. That drain is important. It goes actually into the oil that's in the bottom of the pan. The pipe does. And it acts, I think, kind of like a siphon. Because I've read a lot of comments or whatever from people, knowledgeable Model A engine people, when someone complains about a leaky rear main. If that pipe falls off, you get a lot of dripping outside of the motor. It doesn't drain properly, so it kind of acts like a siphon, I think. Sucks, the oil in the bottom of the pan kind of sucks the oil through the bearing as it's flowing, because it's all gravity. This whole oiling system in this motor is mostly gravity. The pump pumps it up to a higher level in the motor, and then from there it simply flows back down, mostly. There's pipes that are cast into the block, literally passages cast into the block that essentially the oil flows through. There's almost no restriction. There's almost no pressure. The pump just pumps it up, and then it runs through those passages down into the mains, down to the cam, back down into the pan, including one large size pipe on the outside of the motor where it flows back to the pan. Anyway, so much for the oiling theory on the Model A motor. So today what we're going to do is try and get that pan installed. You see, I'm going to start here with, I made a little plywood, you might say, fixture to hold this, because I did find an instruction for doing the pan gasket. It's quite thorough. It's from the Model A Ford Club of America. It's an article that was in the magazine that they do, the monthly or bi-monthly magazine that the club does, called The Restorer. It's a nice little instructional thing for doing the pan gasket. And most of this is done without sealer. You use cork gaskets, the pan gasket kit. And almost all of it is done without gasket sealer. Here's one of the seals. This goes on this end of the pan, but it goes in the rear main. I'll show you real quickly. You see this groove right here? It fits in that groove, and it's a little fat. I have to, it tells you in that directional thing, if it's too fat for the groove, put it in your vise and squeeze it. It'll compress and stay that way long enough for you to get it in the groove. And then the other thing that happens is this is the seal for the other end. This end that I have here, it's rope. See? This is an extra one. And you put that in this groove. This is the front timing cover. It's a casting. So that one of those goes in this groove. The front of the oil pan, you see, has a compatible for the bottom of that same, for the end of the crankshaft. The bottom of the crank, that groove in the oil pan, you put another one of those rope pieces in there. And it tells you to do this. Soak them in oil first. So that's what I'm going to do today. For starters, I'm going to put that piece in there, and again, the way they tell you to do it is to take something, either a bar or something round, and push it in there, or a socket that fits pretty good. I tried this last night with that dry piece of rope, and it snaps right in there. So hopefully with the oil will do the same. So you put it in there and then you cut it off. It says about a 1/16 above this level. So I'm going to see what I can do to do that maybe I'll take a piece of metal that measures approximately a 1/16 of an inch and use it as a guide with a utility knife or a single edge razor. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm going to start today. I'm going to put those ropes in the two grooves on the timing cover and the pan, and see if I can get that cork in the groove on the rear main cap, and then see what I can do to get this pan installed. All right, keep your fingers crossed. Wish me luck. Bye. Okay, folks, well, we're in the middle of the operation here, and you've probably heard this before, but it's true. I got all focused on what I was doing, following the directions to do this oil pan gasket and all that stuff. Forgot about the camera. So here we are. It's ready to put the pan on at this point. I've done all the recommendeds, you know, with the gasket and the interference areas and whatever, and they tell you put this on dry, except for the very ends where the multiple gaskets come together. The rope is under these. The other rope is in the nose of the pan. You see I've got some Permatex High-Tech on the end of the rope. That's what they tell you to do. There's Permatex High-Tech on the other end of the... I probably should put some on the cork. And obviously stick it to the shaft, which is what's going to happen, you know, I'm sure. I guess that probably doesn't matter that much. I don't know. Maybe it does. Because the sealer going around on the shaft might make an opening in the gasket. But it's unavoidable. You put the stuff on the rope and it's going to run onto the shaft. The rope is on the shaft. Anyway, here it is. It's ready to go together. Wish me luck. Bye. Okay, well, it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I think the operation was a success, and the patient will live, survive, whatever. Turning this thing over with the spark plugs in there, it appears as though there's a fair amount of compression. You know, there's quite a bit of resistance as the pistons come up. So that's a good sign. We don't have we can't diagnose yet because the testing equipment isn't even built yet. You got to build the stand for this thing, and once it's done, I'm finishing the motor first. And I have the base for the stand and some materials. I have a extra radiator from one of these. From the Blue Hinds. The radiator that got replaced is up there on the loft. That'll be the radiator I'm going to use. Need to come up with a fuel tank of some sort that I can, hang off of a wall or whatever, a piece of structure. Because there's no pump on this motor. It needs to be gravity. So it's got the pans, the tank. Woo! All of a sudden that word escaped me. The tank has to be higher than the motor, like they were in the car, because it's all gravity feed. But anyway, I got to come up with a tank, and like I say, build the stand. I'm waiting until the motor is complete. So the next thing will be to relocate this on the engine stand so that I can put that on the back of it, because you see the big hole there. That provides the mount for the starter motor, and the flywheel goes inside of that. That's what it's called. It's a flywheel housing. Actually, these things provide the support. That's where the back of the motor was supported in the car. It had two little brackets hanging out of the frame one on each side, and that's how it mounted in the car. Front's a little different. I'm not going to get into that now. You notice I put the generator on it and the belt, and I got to clean and paint and install the exhaust manifolds. I don't have the studs for those, but I can be getting those ready. The side cover's got to go on. I got to fill it up with oil. The oil return pipe that goes in here up to that cover that's missing right there. That's got to get installed. So there's a few more things. But it's close. It's getting there. It's getting there. Granny's looking pretty good. Pretty spiffy. Got our holiday clothes on. Anyway. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.